Good afternoon. So we're still in Tampa, Florida. We're still on the catamaran. And one of the things that we're doing while we're in town is changing the steering rod ends. It's a definite thing that the Gemini catamarans need from time to time. If you have an outboard engine, it will have a similar steering end. But on the Gemini cats, it is the thing. So before we get started, I'm going to let you see, this is the old part, and we found the part at McMaster Car. You can get it from West Marine or any of the big marine stores. Lumar will sell it to you. My commercial price was well over $100, and the McMaster Car piece turns out to be basically exactly the same, arguably even better, and half the price retail. So this is the part number here. Vidi will give that to you. And that is the old part that we're pulling out, and you get to see why it is being changed. It's supposed to have a pivot in it. It's supposed to be able to rotate, and the salt gets to it over time and it won't rotate anymore. So then the new one, and you can see the new one there, all shiny and pretty. It's been in the sun, so it's kind of hot. So what we're going to do is pull the bolt out, which will free it from the steering arm, mark where it was, because miraculously they're the same length. So it's really quite nice for keeping the rudders at the same angle. If it's one of the things you have to watch for, if you buy one that is not the same length, you need to adjust it to make sure that your rudders stay in tune. So we were lucky and they're the same length. So we're just going to mark our steering arm, or our actual the push rod that does the steering. Pull the old one off, put the new one on. We're going to make a slightly larger hole. We're going to go with a slightly larger bolt, and it's pretty quick. Drilling the hole is not fun, but everything else is pretty simple. But we figured we'd show you a quick video, and if you're doing it on your outboard, it's exactly the same thing. You just have better access. If you're doing it on your Gemini catamaran, this is the project. So the Vidi's going to swing down in just a second, show you what we're working on down here in the actual work environment, and then we'll start pulling it apart. So this is the actual part. This is the steering arm. This is the actual steering arm that's connected to the rudder. This is the hydraulic ram, nice and greasy. This is the bar that comes back. This piece is right here, screwed in right here. So we're going to mark these threads, unscrew this piece off. The bolt comes off first, and then we screw the new piece back on. And because they're the same length, when we mark this, it'll go back to the same spot. Rudders will be in tune. We're going to have to slightly drill out our hole, which is right here. And while I'm here, a quick thing. If you hook, this piece runs to the drive unit for steering the drive unit. This is what's steering the rudders, and then everything else through it. We opted for maximum steering, so we are screwed in closest to the rudder, so it's the maximum throw that you can turn the rudder. If your boat is oversteering, or you plan to cross an ocean and you want to calm the steering down, you can move this bolt out to one of these other holes, switch this to any of the other holes, it doesn't matter which one. And by moving this connection out, it will slow and calm your steering for when you're out at sea, crossing the Atlantic or doing a major crossing. And then when you're in areas where you need to have better steering, you move it down this way and it will increase the amount of throw. So just a little bit of tidbit, you can see the old corrosion mark when we got the boat. It was hooked in here. Because we do a lot of tight quarters maneuvering, we switch these two. We have more steering now. She actually answers up better. But she answers up better, so when you're crossing an ocean, it's a little bit more work for your autopilot. So anyway, just one tidbit on the side, and we're getting ready to change out old ugly ones, make them into new pretty ones. Alright, so one of the things that the boat owner reminded me to tell you is that when you buy these from McMaster Car or anywhere else, they come in right-hand thread and left-hand thread. Right-hand thread is normal. Anytime you're running something, it's normal as a right-hand thread. Left-hand thread is the opposite for doing other things that need to be opposite. On this particular boat, both of them are right-hand thread. So when you're ordering the part, make sure that you pay attention to that. And when you order your part, just check it. Unscrewed the normal way, right-hand thread. Make sure you order the right-hand thread. Ours is 12 millimeter. Yours probably is if you're doing one of the Gemini cats, but if you're doing something else that uses the same system, you just measure those threads, pay attention to right and left-hand thread. And so that was our little thing. So now we have drilled out our hole, and I'm gonna wipe our cuttings off so that we don't grind anything unnecessarily. And then get my shadow out of the way. The sun's right overhead. So then at this point, the camera may or may not be able to see it, but we're just going to line the two things up, drive the bolt in, put washers and nuts on, and that's that. When it came apart, the nut was on top. It is certainly easier to do that, but if anything ever goes wrong, the bolt will fall out. So my preference is to do it this way, so that when, if you have a problem, and we're using a nylock, so we shouldn't, but if you have a problem and the nut falls off, you will still have the bolt with gravity wanting to stay there. And these things actually are pretty tight. They like to stay in alignment. So that, just one tidbit that we're changing, and the rest of it is pretty darn simple. So these things line up. Okay. The bolt drops in, and then I will block your view so you won't be able to see it. But we're just going to put the two washers on the bottom and the nut, and we're done. That's it. Pull the piece of tape off, the marker tape, and that's it. So that's the end of the video, and quick one, but gives you a feel for the fact that this is easy. And it is, if you have a Gemini cat, you definitely need to check it. It is something that goes bad, and that pivot, having that pivot in there, allowing things to move, will keep the bolt from getting chewed up, keep the steering arm from getting chewed up. That's why it's there. And it's just life in the salt that they go bind up. So that's it. Till next time, enjoy your boat.